What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Sexton Sobriety. Today, I'm going to talk about my thoughts, my feelings, and just where I was at in early recovery, or even prior to early recovery when I was just realizing that addiction it just wasn't working. My substance use was not working. So let's get right into it. I want to ask that you please like and subscribe, and feel free to reach out to me on Instagram anytime. So, in active addiction, I got to the point to where using was just part of life. It was normal. And I felt obligated to use. I was diagnosed with anxiety. I had chronic pain. I was diagnosed bipolar, agoraphobia. I had tons of mental health diagnosis. And basically, that can be a great thing to look into because from there you can find solutions. For me, the only solutions that I was looking into were medications, and they were medications that I was abusing. So it wasn't working out for me. Basically, benzos made my anxiety worse, opiates made my pain worse, and it was just a perpetual cycle. So in early recovery, specifically like in treatment, I had to go through a really strong detox and I was feeling really off, but I was really battling with myself mentally. Like I was in a battle against my brain. My body was kind of shutting down. I wasn't able to really function. Like my motor skills weren't there. So this was all really concerning. And ultimately, the conclusion that I came to was that, basically recovery wouldn't work for me. I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Like this is too hard. I just want to feel numb. You know what I mean? And so those were my feelings in early recovery. I was like, I also felt like the universe or God, if you want to call it, that was like punishing me. I was like, I had a lot of behavioral issues. I was acting out. I wasn't, living up to my morals and stuff like that. And so I felt like, yeah, it was a form of punishment. Like I was doomed to have to feel things for the rest of my life, and that it would always suck and I would always struggle and just feel like shit. And I felt like that for a while. There's different time frames when it comes to this stuff, but I felt withdrawal symptoms from Klonopin for over 6 months. And you could say those were post-acute withdrawal symptoms, but they were there and I felt really, really bad. And I'm not saying this to discourage anyone. I'm saying this to be completely real because the difference between back then and now is a night and day difference. I don't feel the motivation to numb myself every day. I'm used to feeling. So basically, a lot of recovery for me was just getting used to feeling feelings and like accepting that. There's more to it. I had to learn emotional regulation. I had to learn some positive coping skills because, to be completely honest, I didn't have any. And so that was a huge part of my journey. I basically stunted my growth in addiction. Like I used for so many years as a teenager that it kind of set me back a little bit. But at the same time, I was able to make a lot of progress really quickly. So I just want to say that. So the point of this video is really just to kind of articulate like what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. That's kind of a formula that we'll stick to in a lot of recovery communities. So I'll just get straight into that. So basically what it was like is I was miserable every single day. I felt like I was stuck in a loop. It felt like Groundhog Day. Every single day I woke up, I was disappointed that I woke up. And I was like on the hustle again. I had to get what I thought I needed. Even when I had prescriptions, I still wanted more. So it was this perpetual searching and suffering, and it just completely sucked. So that's what it was like for years. And I lived at a bottom for years. Like people say, like, they hit rock bottom. I would hit a bottom, I would live there for a while, and then I would go deeper. I would drill through the rocks. And so I don't necessarily even subscribe to the idea of not rock bottom because it can always get worse. And then the real bottom, the real rock bottom is death. So anyways, I lived, on those terms. Everything sucked. I became increasingly pessimistic. I was very cynical, and this was persistent for a very long time. Now I want to talk about what happened. So basically what happened is I was at risk of dying. I was going to sleep at night or passing out really. And basically I would stop breathing and I would wake up gasping for air. So I was living with my mom at the time. She would come in and check on me. And there were many, many instances to where I would be like, and like, catching my breath because I would stop breathing because you're not supposed to take, opiates and benzos together. And plus I was abusing Ambien. So that was just not a mixture. So basically what happened is, like I said, I was at risk of death. And so that caused her to look into some options. And basically what she found was an addictionologist, someone who practices addiction medicine. And from there, I was able to get into treatment. With that being said, there's this another aspect to what happened. I thought that I was too far gone. I thought that recovery wouldn't work for me. I thought I was special and unique, which I can be special and unique in certain ways, but when it comes to addiction, not really. And so basically, I was telling myself, I'm too far gone. No one has suffered like I've suffered, and so therefore, recovery is not going to work for me. And I feel a lot of people fall into this way of thinking, and it's very detrimental because it's not true. Anyone can recover if you have the capacity to be honest with yourself and others, and if you can take positive action and suggestions, and if you can surrender to a process, basically. And so that kind of was a roadblock for me. I had to really, work on some acceptance. And part of that acceptance was, realizing that I wasn't too far gone. And there's always someone out there who's had, an intense experience that you haven't had. So it's important to think about that. And the way that I realized that was through talking to other people. And they shared with me things that I was like, oh, wow, dang, that's hardcore. And not from a judgmental way, but from like a relating type way. Like, oh, I relate to that. That sounds like something that I would do as well, even if I haven't done it yet. And I had someone straight up tell me, like, you think that you won't do this? Well, you're not there yet, basically. And that was very valuable for me. So yeah, man, I mean, look, my addiction, basically what it did is it just dehumanized me and left me in a place to where I was emaciated physically and my mental faculties were just not there. And so that's what happened. But as far as the change that happened, I heard people talk. I heard peers talk. I had a counselor who is in recovery, and she was able to kind of relay the message of recovery to me and kind of just like show me by example, like, this is what you do. You talk about your feelings. And through that process, I gained a little bit of willingness to talk about my feelings. I also had, clinical help. I did EMDR. I was prescribed a bunch of non-narcotic medications, stuff like that. I was doing talk therapy. So basically what happened is that I was exposed to a lot of different solutions. So I was in treatment for 4 months. I left. I immediately went to a sober living house. I stayed in sober living for 6 months while going to intensive outpatient and attending recovery meetings and also doing talk therapy, also meeting with an addictionologist, and continued to take my medication. And I did that for quite some time. And so basically that's what happened as far as recovery. I realized there were a bunch of assets out there that I could acquire, basically, and I started to do so. And that process wasn't just like completely smooth. Basically throughout the whole time I was like battling myself because in my brain I was like saying, hey, I need to take Xans or Klonopin, and like, for me, that was the thinking that was persistent. It was like, you need to take Xans. Like, you have anxiety, you need to take Xans. For some reason, I had an easier time accepting that I wasn't going to take opiates anymore. But the Xan thing was like really, really hard for me to accept, honestly. So, dude, basically that's what happened. I had those feelings, and guess what? I talked about them and I took positive action. And so I was able to reprogram my brain. So when my brain went to like, oh, I should use right now, instead of entertaining the idea of using, I would go into talking about it, going into some sort of positive coping skill, and go to a meeting, meditate, do a grounding exercise, do a breathing exercise, or just distract yourself with something that's not going to hurt you. It's okay to partake in distractions that are not hurtful. So I have to make that completely clear. Even if it's like watching a YouTube video or watching Netflix or listening to music or whatever, like going on a walk, like, dude, there's so many different things that you can do, but they don't sound like a good option when you're used to instant gratification. So a lot of my experience was me getting over instant gratification, honestly. And I understand I'm all over the place with this video. I hope you're enjoying it. But basically, I'm gonna share what it's like now. So through the experiences of having, learning new coping skills and integrating them into my life, I realized that recovery was sustainable. And before I go any further, I want to say I also had low points in recovery. At about 4 years clean and sober, I hit a wall and I felt really bad. And ultimately, I wasn't being nice to myself and I wasn't doing enough self-care. So I had to really double down on that. But with that being said, from that point forward, now it's been 4 years and I'm doing the best that I've pretty much ever been. I feel in touch with myself. I've been able to continue to maintain my recovery, and it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. So basically what it's like now is that I wake up in the morning, I do my morning routine. I'm not met with this urge to change the way that I feel like I was in active addiction or early recovery. And so that alone is really freeing, and it makes me feel good because I wake up and I'm like, okay, my urge is to drink some water or go to the bathroom or eat some food or, you know what I mean? Do my meditation and stuff like that. So that's beautiful. As far as just my normal days, I'm able to be in the moment. I'm able to sit with myself and with my thoughts and be okay with that. I'm able to take action if I'm having a bad day. And I'll tell you this straight up. Now I have maybe a few bad days a month, whereas every single day in active addiction was terrible. So that's huge progress. I have solutions. I have community. I can hit people up if I need to talk. I can attend meetings, whether in person or online. I have all my resources that are around me, and I have them at my disposal. And the only reason I got to this point is because of practice and repetition. I did it over and over again until it became second nature. And so now if something comes up, I immediately go into solution. And so that's beautiful. Anyone can do this straight up. And so I apologize for being all over the place. I'm very passionate about this. So I want to touch on a lot of stuff. That's really it for today, y'all. I went from being miserable to questioning if I was even going to be able to recover, to actively being in recovery and realizing that it was sustainable for me and that I could do this for the rest of my life and that it doesn't suck. It doesn't have to suck. So yeah, that's it for today. Much love, y'all. Be easy on yourselves and don't hesitate to reach out. If you're interested in my accountability coaching, I am taking on clients right now. You can reach out to me, sextonsobriety@gmail.com. Just send me an email, or you can also DM me on Instagram @sextonsobriety. Much love, y'all. Peace.